Hi, I'm Fangs. Welcome to the shit show where you can see me, but I can't see you. This video isn't really goth-centric, and I just filmed it because I wanted to, and it's my channel. Though I do know a lot of goths who like Castlevania. Today I'm attempting to do my makeup to look like Ayami Kojima drew me. I've always liked her work, and I thought maybe the way she does faces might be fun to mimic. My features are naturally kind of sharper, and I like how she depicts men, so I wanted to go for a sort of androgynous look. Though I'm not really sure that I'm very good at pulling that off. I wanted to reference her art directly instead of looking up a tutorial of someone trying to cosplay as Alucard or something, because I thought it would be more interesting to talk about the things I notice as a fellow artist about Kojima's style while I try to emulate that in real life. This video is also sort of a send-off to my fang piercings. They're slowly rejecting and migrating, so as much as it pains me, I have to take them out before they do too much damage, but I can't do anything about it. I'll get into why I have them and all the weird, unhinged kind of stuff I got going on in my head about why I look like a vampire later. I start off with my eyes first, so I don't make too many weird faces doing everything else, and it's easier to fix them if I fuck up early on this way. Kojima has a very soft pastel sort of thing going on in her work, so I wanted to slowly build up the shadows around the nose and under the brow, and make them very diffused. My palette of choice for this is ColourPop's Stone Cold Fox, and it has a lot of natural shades that are good for doing shadows the way she does. My shadows look harsher on camera than what they were in real life, but I hope they still maintain their softness. At least it's easier for you guys to see. The gray shade there is actually a taupe shade and not nearly as dark as it looks. I lined my waterline with white since it tends to often be a light color in my reference images. That said, she does sometimes emphasize a character's eyes with black, often around the outer edges, so I decided to do that. I decided to skip eyeliner and keep my eye makeup fairly soft, so instead I lined my eyes with a little black eyeshadow. I'm kind of broke, so I don't have fake eyelashes, so we just make do with what nature gave us for now. No one asked, but while I do my boring base makeup, I guess I'll sort of talk about why I have fang piercings, because there is sort of a reason there, and it probably isn't what most people might think. And I am a chronic oversharer and American, so I can't afford therapy. They do lend a lot to a very gothic vampire aesthetic, which is pretty cool, but that wasn't my actual goal in mind with them when I got them. It's actually worse and a lot more vulnerable than that. This might not really make much sense to other people, but I kind of find comfort in having inhuman qualities about the way I look. My hair being a weird two-toned color kind of also ties into this. There's a sort of symbolic, artistic point I'm making when I do weird stuff to my appearance that's a little bit deeper than it just looking cool, even if that's part of it. My deep lore is that I grew up with and have spent most of my life being othered and generally heavily ostracized by people, whether it was because I was autistic or just weird in general, and it has had a pretty profound, deeply scarring effect on me psychologically that's caused a lot of super weird, fucked up reasons for why I am the way that I am. Even when I tried to look normal, people could tell that I wasn't, and it resulted in wasted effort and a lot of social blundering on my part. So at some point I just decided I wasn't going to even try to look normal, and that I explicitly didn't want anybody to ever mistake me for being that way ever again. Because I commit to every insane bit that enters my head, I go so far with this idea that I no longer own clothes that are normie passable, kinda regardless of the issues that can cause. I just simply don't even give myself the option to retreat into normalcy, because it genuinely never has been a real option for me. Goth subculture gives me an interesting aesthetic outlet for this, as well as a community of the only people who I've ever found who were ever really like me, as well as the only people who ever have liked me. Anyways, my point is, I figure if I look visually like some kind of weird monster or not human, at least people are usually more honest to me about what they think of me being different from the very beginning, and they can't hurt me by treating me like that anymore. Maybe that's fucked up, but it's much easier for me to socially navigate as an autistic person when I can tell immediately that someone is going to be super judgmental of how I look, because if they don't like that, they're not going to like anything about what's inside of me either. And I have thus far never been wrong about this. It's sort of a really weird, convoluted social hack that I made up in my fried egg brain. All that to essentially say that I'm not really much better than an actual vampire. People don't like me instinctively I have weird compulsions that don't make sense. I'm very vulnerable to being burned by the sun, and although I can look in mirrors and see a reflection, it doesn't mean that I can genuinely see myself. But I'm not quite weird enough to start biting people, though. So symbolically, I guess it does make a lot of sense. Utter, unrepentantly mentally ill logic, but I don't think people exactly watch my stuff because I look like I have sane, reasonable takes on anything ever, so do with that info what you will.
What? Oh, man. And you're a goddamn Malkavian, too. Wow. You really are fucked.
The contouring around the nose is pretty significant in Kojima's work, and she usually has characters with very defined, slender noses, so I tried to recreate that somewhat. Contouring my nose is kinda complicated because I have a small ridge or bump or whatever it is there on the bone. Unfortunately for me, I have a very, very Anglo facial structure, and every non-American friend I have ever made has commented on it thus. Fortunately, on the other hand, aesthetics that require very sharp features tend to work out pretty nicely on my face, but I'm not sure if it's worth the genetic dependency on T yet. I contoured underneath my bottom lip to give the illusion of a shadow there like I see in her work, and I tried to sharpen up and hollow out my cheekbones to seem a bit more masculine looking. They're already pretty sharp on their own, but I wanted to push that emphasis. I'm not sure if it works well on my face, though. Maybe it does. Or not. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Once my face was hollowed out, I finally remembered to do my eyebrows. In regards to lips, Kojima doesn't often give them much color. Sometimes Dracula or another vampire has a tint of gray or something, but they're never rosy even on human characters, and always pale. So we're unironically doing concealer lips and giving them a bit of definition with some eyeshadow. After that, I decided to kind of highlight my face a bit with a white concealer I have. My skin is so pale naturally, though, that I'm not sure if it really did anything for me. I didn't like my cheekbones at this point, so I kept touching them up and refining them to look like I had been mewing or whatever the fuck people my age and younger say nowadays. I decided to add some extra emphasis by adding shading to my throat, though you aren't really going to see much of that when I put my shirt on later. I finally took my hair out of curlers so I could stop looking like the landlady from Kung Fu Hustle, and picked out my clothes. I don't actually have many super vampire-coated clothes laying around because I have been neglecting my romantic goth wardrobe lately, but I have a shirt that looks and feels like it's made out of grandma's curtains, and this red jacket that I don't get to wear very often that I think could work. The shirt is itchy, so I don't tend to wear it very often. I wasn't fucking joking that it looks and feels like it's made out of some curtains. It really fucking does feel like that. My red jacket is a lot more comfortable, at least. I didn't bother to coordinate pants or shoes, because I'm not going out, and I was feeling pretty bummed and lazy, and also because you aren't going to be able to see my pants anyways. I have no idea if I accomplished what I set out to do, but I mostly enjoyed it, even if I'm going to stay tweaking out about losing my piercings for a hot minute. Recording my voiceover without them, I'm not gonna lie, I feel pretty vulnerable, even if those feelings about the situation are kinda insane. I don't have much else to say, other than I hope you enjoy some of the shots of me aura farming after spilling my entire guts out. I have no idea if I pulled off the look I was going for, but I still kinda feel like I'd put everyone through hell if I was actually born an evil vampire twink.